Dear people, the Strait is under the control of the Islamic Republic. Do you remember when they wanted to send a minesweeper to clear the mines? Well, we stood firm and took action. We considered this a violation of the ceasefire and said that if they did it, we would respond. We even reached the point of confrontation. They withdrew. While I was there, that man's brother, Abdullahi, contacted me. He said that their minesweeper had positioned itself in such a way that if it didn't stop there, our missile would surely hit it. I told the American delegation there. I told them, this is the border. If you move any further, we will definitely attack. They only asked us for 15 minutes. I said, sir, give them 15 minutes. We will give the order for them to return, and I gave the order for them to return. After they returned, Mr. Abdullahi contacted me and said, yes, they rested for 15 minutes and now they have returned. I mean, look, so if today there is any movement in the Strait and it advances, the control of the Strait is in our hands. Now, they have had the place surrounded for 2 or 3 days now. What does it mean to surround? It means that everyone can pass except Iran. What a foolish and ignorant decision. Well, if the Strait is here, we are here, and everyone who wants to pass is here. And they can all pass through here except us. Is that even possible? This is one mistake after another. Naturally, as I mentioned earlier, I said that if they don't lift the blockade, without a doubt, transit in the Strait will inevitably be limited, and various additional restrictions will be imposed.
Well, he is the president of the Iranian parliament. According to the reports, well, he has made these statements where he claims that the Strait of Hormuz has basically been taken. I mean, rather that they still control it, right? And well, this is part of the challenges that Iran faces, where at one point it seemed like they were going to open the Strait. It was even announced by some Iranian politicians and by Donald Trump himself. And obviously there were reactions everywhere. Donald Trump even went so far as to say that China was very happy about that issue. But hours later, well, that was later denied. Especially because of what this man is basically saying today. How is it possible that they're talking about some kind of opening and then the United States comes in and closes the Strait on them? You say, how is that possible? Since you already opened it, just open it for everyone, right? They open it and then the United States closes it. So obviously they close it too. It was logical that it would happen, obviously.
It's basic diplomacy, isn't it?
It's pretty basic, exactly. Also, the United States hadn't closed it. I'm not sure when they decided to close it. Is it that? Or do they just not want to negotiate either? Come on, it seems like neither side wants negotiations, and maybe this is supposedly meant to put pressure on them to negotiate. And this, well, brings us to a moment where right now, at this very moment, an urgent meeting is being announced. This report we're about to give wasn't scheduled over there at the White House. We started with this, but suddenly a new situation came up where a meeting has been called at the White House. Here it is.
Exactly, in the famous Situation Room. You remember it? It has many historic moments. This meeting took place at the White House on Saturday night. Donald Trump went to play golf at a place in Washington called the Trump Fields, and he returned immediately to the White House to have this meeting. He had mentioned before finishing his golf game that in a few hours he would know whether the agreement would be made or not. If it was necessary, then, well, to take military action, right? The situation in Iran, we have to remember that since yesterday, right? The situation was already starting to get bad again. Yes, of course. Well, starting in the afternoon, they closed the Strait again because in the morning it's announced that it's open and in the afternoon it's closed. It's crazy. It's not that fast.
So chaos.
Also remember the ceasefire ends in 3 days.
Wednesday, exactly. The ceasefire ends on Wednesday. Everything is closed. It doesn't look like there's going to be a negotiation. In this meeting, apparently what they're already talking about is, well, what's next, right? The next step.
Exactly. Who is in this meeting? Steve Witkoff, who, well, has been the star negotiator for Donald Trump, and the director of the CIA is also there, John Ratcliffe. Also present is Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a top military role. He's often seen providing updates on Iran. J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth would also be there, obviously, since he is the Secretary of War.
And there's a factor which is Lebanon. Pay attention to what the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, says, that
He was reportedly killed and announced dead, but I think they were wrong.
No, well, no. He has continued making statements, but yes, it was said, right? It was said that he had been eliminated, and well, he says the following.
لأننا مستهدفون وجوديا ولأن وطن
The Secretary General of the radical group Hezbollah, Naim Qasim, says the following. We will remain on the battlefield until our last breath. We will never surrender. We will capture enemy soldiers. The cities in northern Israel will never be safe. This statement from the leader of Hezbollah shows that there is no possibility of negotiation. Remember that this is triangulated. This is triangulated. The situation in Iran is, let's see, the line for them is that the United States withdraws from this area, that they want to keep the uranium, all of this, that they get their money, that they unfreeze $20 billion, and so on and so on. But on the other hand, one of the basic points is that there are no attacks against Hezbollah or Lebanon from Israel. And the same. Hezbollah from Lebanon says, we're going to continue with this, we're going to keep operating, they're going to keep attacking, there's no possibility of peace in this area. So, therefore, there's also no possibility of peace in Iran, at least with the suggestion or the idea that Lebanon won't be attacked, because obviously Lebanon is going to keep being attacked. If this person warns that they're going to keep shooting, that they're going to keep attacking, well, there's no doubt about it. This is already super complicated, and on top of that, add the complication of Trump changing his mind every 5 minutes.
He lives in a parallel world, always saying, everything's going great, they're giving me all the nuclear stuff, I've basically got the keys to the palace. And the reality is that not even an hour goes by before they're already saying he's hallucinating. We don't know what he's talking about.
The volatile chaos of volatility, I think he's talking about the markets. He's talking to the markets. I don't know if it's true, but it's not like that. That's exactly it.
How long can this effect last? Not much, no, we already know this.
But with every rise and every fall, you take a slice from the markets and you keep taking. And that will have to be proven someday, right? Obviously, well, this is, we assume or think, or I personally, and I think many others share this idea, that there's huge market manipulation. Someday, I hope it will be thoroughly investigated. If that's allowed right now, it's going to keep happening, and it's going to have very serious consequences for the markets, not just in the United States. Because we have to remember that a lot, especially in financial matters, a lot of what happens in the US stock markets, later you start to see those patterns repeating in other regions of the world. Another thing that also stands out in this issue with Hezbollah is that at one point they said they were unarmed. At one point they said there was almost no leadership left, that they were about to disappear. That was the impression they gave to everyone.
For quite a while.
But what was apparently happening is that during all that pause, they were building up strength so that when Iran gave the orders, they would basically act.
Exactly, because yes, after this super intense attack that Israel carried out a few years ago, it seemed like they had basically been left leaderless, but no, they're still there. They've survived, like cockroaches often survive.
Hey, they survive everything.
They survive everything. Hey, but the comment about this Alidad, the one from the parliament, he also made a very intense comment that day where he said, it's a personal statement. He said, I'm ready for martyrdom. And he says that all of Iran's leadership is prepared to shed blood for the cause. And that's a message that obviously is aimed at two audiences, one for the Iranians, because it's the president of the parliament who's saying it, that despite 6 weeks of quite intense bombing where they've lost many, many leaders, they're still willing to keep attacking and they don't care if civilians suffer. And for Washington, it's like a warning, right? That they're not afraid to lose everything, they're not afraid to negotiate and lose it all.
Well, that's the style that has characterized the group of the Ayatollahs, let's say. And well, I also imagine that in the end they're politicians. And to be close to the Revolutionary Guard, well, you have to be very intense, because if not, let's say if they act like Abbas Sargachi, who is more diplomatic, who is more political, well, you saw how they called him an idiot. Today, in a conversation that we played here, where both of the Revolutionary Guard were commenting on that while telling the people from India to go back now.
Yesterday, we discussed how the current leader of the Revolutionary Guard Corps, the one from the last video's cover, whose name I can't recall, said he was going to be impeached.
Yes, of course.
The Iranian version, I forget the Farsi word.
But yes, now also, well, there is a reaction from Iran regarding the nuclear issue. Let's listen to what they have to say.
U.S. officials mention facts that you cannot verify. For example, I can tell you that Iran's enriched uranium under no circumstances will be transferred. It will not be moved anywhere, just as the land of Iran is important and sacred to us. This matter is also important to us.
So this is ruled out?
The topic.
The transfer of uranium enriched to 60% is not up for discussion.
This issue has never been raised. It has never been an option on our part for Iran's enriched uranium to be transferred to the United States. There are different options regarding the resolution of the issues that are considered part of our nuclear dossier. But I have never said that. The transfer of enriched materials from Iran to the United States has never been an option.
For us? And what about the permanent suspension of enrichment?
As I mentioned, look, all these issues that are being raised are part of a media campaign that they have launched to influence the negotiators. And our negotiators, our diplomats, the members of the negotiating team will undoubtedly not be affected by these manipulations. Based on the guidelines established by the system, the negotiator advances the work within that framework. This benefits the issue and the rights of the Iranian nation.
Well, that's part of the reactions that have been coming from or on behalf of the Iranians, basically completely denying the uranium issue, saying, well, this situation is not going to happen, this is not going to be the case, well, that's it. Trump said the troops are going to go or somehow they're going to get hit with radioactive dust, I don't know, uranium dust, etc. That's not the case. They've said it over and over again. No, I don't understand how suddenly, especially in the American media, they push this idea on people and they just don't question it, right? I mean, at least I think this topic should be questioned. I mean, look, the Iranians have already said it. I've repeated it too many times. Of course, they're not interested. They've even made the whole uranium issue sacred and all that. So basically, they're not going to give it up for anything, right? So either you take it away from them, or you leave them with the issue, but there's no other way, there's no other option. Basically, it's not like they're going to give it to you or sell it to you or anything like that, right? That's because they said supposedly they're going to get a payment. No, it's not a payment. The money that belongs to the Iranians, 20 billion that the United States has frozen, actually they have more, and they said, well, we're going to unfreeze this, right? I mean, we're going to return this money and hand over the cell phones, and well, no, that's not going to happen. I mean, it's known that they've always been very ambiguous when it comes to negotiating, but now, even in the middle of a war, the ambiguity continues because if the strategy has worked for them and kept them alive for so many decades, well...
Why would they change it?
Why would they change it exactly, right? And by the way, there's a message from the president of Lebanon. It's a message that the president of Lebanon wants to send since he's putting pressure on Hezbollah to disarm so that it becomes only a political group, not a military, paramilitary, or armed radical group within Lebanon, which causes them a lot of instability and many problems. Well, this is the message from Jose Anon, the president of Lebanon. Let's listen.
To those who toy with Lebanon's fate and its people's lives, I mean, enough. Only the state project in Lebanon is the strongest, the most enduring, and the safest.
Well, that's basically it, right? He backs the state project. I mean, he says, well, what we want is to have a state that is controlled and not to have this kind of sub-state. As if it were a separate group, a separate government that wants to control everything. And that has weapons, military strike capability, helicopters, planes, because they have, well, they are heavily armed. Eso no puede existir. But on the other hand, their army hasn't been able to control Hezbollah, right? So, well, that's the message that Jose Anon gives.
They do whatever they want since they've already been told to leave the country, but they refuse to go.
They won't leave. And well, I mean, are you referring to Hezbollah?
Well, specifically the Iranian ambassadors, many people from the Iranian government who are in Lebanon, they've been asked several times to leave and they won't leave. Honestly, they just don't care, and I don't know how people in Lebanon tolerate them. Are they afraid? Why not kick them out?
Because in the end, since Hezbollah is an armed group, they know there would be a civil uprising if something like that happened. Not a civil war, but if they get into a direct conflict with Hezbollah like that, On the other hand, well, Pope Leo XIV also delivers this message.
There has already been a certain narrative that hasn't been accurate in all its aspects, but due to the political situation that was created when, on the first day of the trip, the President of the United States made some comments about me. Much of what has been written since then has mostly been commentary on other commentary, trying to interpret what has been said. Just a small example. The speech I gave at the Prayer for Peace meeting a couple of days ago was prepared 2 weeks ago, long before the President had made any comments about me and about the message of peace that I am promoting. And yet, as it happened, it was interpreted as if I was trying to debate with the President again, which is not my intention at all.
Well,
He felt called out, but it wasn't meant for him.
yeah, I mean, Donald Trump felt called out. It wasn't a message for him. The topic of, like they say, tyrants and all that stuff.
The high self, how do you say it?
In general, sorry, there are a lot of tyrants in the world. I mean, you shouldn't think that I'm talking about you, right? Because, well, then it's like you're confirming it, right? Well, anyway, the thing is that he gives this answer or this comment saying, well, no, it wasn't a message specifically for Trump. It's just that he felt called out. In any case, the message was already written and prepared weeks before all this debate, the debate that's been going on. But anyway, it's part of the reactions that are happening on this topic. Another issue is what's happening with Russia. Let's get into that.
He's a bit of a stranger in Washington, promoting, together with the so-called major Europeans, the idea of creating a new military bloc with Ukraine as a member. Yes, not just as a member, but as its main participant. And Zelensky actively supports this idea. The fact that the United States wants this, to shift to Europe the main responsibility of containing Russia in order to free themselves up, let's be clear, to focus on China, and they don't hide it. To serve those interests, they are trying to spur not just discussion but concrete steps toward preemptively creating such an anti-Russian military bloc. An anti-Russian military bloc announced with the participation of Ukraine. The idea of deploying stabilization forces comes to mind. Macron delights in this idea. Starmer also agrees as well. And the Americans say, yes, Rubio said it not long ago. It seems that the French and the English want to deploy there. Some kind of stabilization contingent? It's clear that without the technologies the United States has, they won't be able to handle it. We'll see what happens. If there is peace, we are ready, we will support them. That is, there is no talk at all of normalizing the Ukrainian regime. Neither through elections nor through the imposition of certain requirements by the so-called democratic world. That's not what it's about at all.
That's not what it's about at all. Well, those are more comments that Lavrov himself makes on the subject. And even, well, for a moment he goes so far as to make a sort of threat, right? It gets to an intense point, but let's say here, well, part of the reaction is that Lavrov would have specifically warned and threatened Europe and Kate Kellogg over the project for the new European Defense Union with Ukraine. Up until now, well, Kellogg himself, he has been actively promoting the idea that they should create a new military alliance and that Ukraine should not be, well, incorporated directly into NATO, but instead be part of some kind of new alliance.
Like NATO, but exclusive to Europe, basically. Interesting, isn't it? We should remember that this person was part of Trump's administration. He was the representative on the Ukraine issue. He was fired because, well, little by little, even though at first it didn't seem like it, but he really is a military man. And in the end, he ended up supporting Ukraine more than was convenient for Donald Trump. He was even fired once because Russia didn't like it, and that was the end.
Putin got rid of him?
Under Putin's orders, yes. In 2000, at the beginning of this year, he was fired. And, well, he continues. He's very active in Ukraine, even though he no longer has a position with the United States government there.
No, he's now more like an analyst, he's a politician, a military man, whatever. I mean, the thing here, what's interesting is that well, in this new alliance that could be a European alliance, according to what Europe says, basically Ukraine would be the one taking the lead. I mean, in the end, they would have the experience and a highly trained army. And look at how things turn around, right? That's really impressive, honestly. In a 4-year war, how many twists have we seen? Where suddenly there have been advances by Russia, where suddenly there have been setbacks, where suddenly there have been moments when even Ukraine invades Russia. I mean, come on, too many twists in a war that has even had nuclear risks. But now, well, even when the Wagner group rebelled against Russia and marched toward Moscow against Vladimir Putin, I mean, a lot of dramatic moments to make a pretty good series like 5 seasons, right? Honestly, it's really intense.
Well, everything Rob is saying is because obviously they feel threatened by this project that the European Commission is working on, which is discussing an intergovernmental treaty to promote this defense union and prepare the European Union so it can defend itself independently, not depending on the United States, especially because the United States is currently focused on the Middle East and on China. And this treaty, the intention is to strengthen the role of the European Union in defending itself. Right, and to avoid a constant debate, a competition over whether it should belong, for example, to NATO. With this, if the United States is really going to support it, because, well, right now Trump pulls out, but who's to say there won't be someone else just as tough or even tougher when it comes to the issue of separation from Europe, or even more critical?
Exactly. I mean, and as Gisela says, I don't know if she's referring to the one in Ukraine or the one in Israel or which one. But it applies to all of them. It even applies to Korea, both Koreas, and several others. She says it's an absurd situation, it's delicate, and the first tactical mistake could trigger a worldwide war. Look, I mean, what came to my mind was that drone launched by the president of South Korea, thinking he was going to get into trouble with North Korea. And luckily, Kim Jong-un takes a deep breath, doesn't overreact. He says, hey, they launched a drone at me, what's going on there? South Korean congressmen realize that the drone really was from South Korea, and they start questioning what's going on. Then they realize that the president wanted to create a problem with North Korea to see if, in a kind of war scare or something like that, they would stop investigating him. As we already know, Netanyahu did the same thing, and even Trump has done it too. I mean, when they're in trouble and there's a clash that's about to turn into a conflict, well, they create these conflicts, but these conflicts are very risky. Those conflicts can cause a big enough mistake that things escalate very quickly and lead to a more open conflict. So that's also an important problem. Let's move on to other interesting topics. In the meantime, take a look at these Russian bloggers. Well, you saw them, right? More or less. Yes.
Well, they have this complaint about the war, right? That basically it's lasted too long, and on top of that, they advance or retreat at a snail's pace. And where is it all going to go?
Let's listen to them for a bit.
We've almost reached the point where people are starting to laugh at us in a pretty objective way. And they're also patriots who care about Russia, about its majestic army and so on. And haven't you heard, Ivan, I'm sure you have, how sometimes that comment sounds sarcastic? We take a pigsty and we're already boasting to the whole world about a new victory. That exists, and we shouldn't be ashamed of those comments from people because behind that sarcastic remark there's a truth. Well, really, what can you say? And you'll say it slowly.
It's true. What he's saying is real, and we've already talked about it here about 2 years ago. I mean, what he's saying started to get attention. It started to get attention, exactly. It started to get attention, and suddenly they would say, we already took it. Just like that. Because every week, if you check the reports released by Russia, they give a weekly report, and the weekly report keeps track. It was like we advanced from this street to that street, and that was the week, and then the next week, no, well, now we took such and such corner of such and such little town on the corner like that. You'd read it and think, wait, is the translator bad? What's going on? And you'd look at it again, right? Pro-Russian bloggers. Let's see what they thought. And well, they themselves were making fun of the fact that they had managed to advance half a block. I mean, what is this? How? I mean, you're losing 15 for so few people. That's why you say, besides, you say, well, what, are you a country that's really full, that you have nowhere else to go, that you desperately need space, which still doesn't justify it. No, but you say no, right? I mean, it's literally the largest country in terms of territory with basically no important infrastructure except in certain cities. You say, hey, well, improve yourself first, right? I mean, at least China is making progress with its infrastructure across the country. They're at least doing what they can. But over here, you wonder, why do you want more land?
Exactly. If you have wells from the Stalin era, that's where it's concentrated. The point is about your population, right? They have key cities and everything else seems unimportant.
Yes, the situation is really serious now. Well, anything else about that topic? If not, let's move on to other interesting matters. There's an operation that draws attention because it's a combination of intelligence agencies, so to speak, right? An operation in which the CIA is involved. They use software that's Israeli called Pegasus, which is very well known here in Mexico and in other countries, because politicians have used that software to spy on journalists and to... I mean, supposedly that company has everything restricted so that governments don't misuse the program, but we know that doesn't really happen. So, a very interesting move by Pegasus, or rather by the CIA, using Pegasus to get into Iranian networks and inside those Iranian networks, pretending to send messages to each other, causing confusion and similar issues. I mean, according to the reports, they get into WhatsApp, into Signal, inside Iran, right? So the CIA would have carried out a covert operation using the Pegasus spyware to manipulate enemy communications in Iran. According to the report, this was cited by the Times of Israel and also reported by the Times in the United States. The idea was, he says, to directly interfere with the Iranian response after the military incident when the F-planes went down here.
Of course.
In Kuwait. The idea was to confuse them, to make it seem like they were looking for him at a certain point so the Iranians would go there and they, well, do you remember? Yes, exactly. And so, not the one in Kuwait, but the one inside Iran, exactly. So that when they were rescuing him, the Iranians would go look for him somewhere else and create confusion. So they pretended among themselves saying, no, they're not in that place. Oh, okay, let's go. I mean, they created that confusion, but what's striking is that they used WhatsApp. I mean, it made me laugh a lot because I imagined they used another network, a different network to communicate, and they used Signal and WhatsApp according to the report. And that also stands out to me in this whole thing. But anyway, during the CIA operation, they supposedly sent fake messages through WhatsApp and Signal, simulating legitimate communications between themselves. The messages claimed that the pilot had already been rescued. They tried to divert the search effort to other areas and also said that the soldier had already been rescued. The strategy is part of what the CIA director John Radcliffe publicly described as a deception campaign. What I mean is, I understand that this kind of thing gets communicated, that this information gets leaked, but to me it's so strange that they then publish it because, I mean...
And also, when everything is happening and there's a war, I mean, why don't you wait a few years and then publish it?
Exactly. Why do you publish this kind of thing?
I think it's because the government wants to show the power they have.
They want to bring it down, but that's already...
That it had already been weakened by...
How much Pegasus cost and how much it costs to do all this. Now next time, if another incident happens and they want to deceive again, the Iranians will say don't pay attention to any WhatsApp or Signal messages or anything. They're going to be completely distrustful about the whole thing.
They're going to download Telegram?
The intelligence guys must think they've exposed another trick. One more, right? I mean, this whole thing is really ridiculous, honestly, but well, that's how they handle it. They prefer to show off, to brag that they achieved X or Y, but this is actually to their own detriment, right? Or it affects you in the future, right? But anyway, let's move on to other important matters. There's some movement from the Navy. I mean, the Navy is making moves that seem like they're getting ready for, well, basically the military option.
Exactly. As far as we know, in fact, it was reported in the Wall Street Journal. The United States military is already preparing to board ships that are linked to Iran in the coming days. And this would obviously mark an escalation, another escalation. These are escalations. Let's say they're trying to consider other options before attacking, I don't know, Car Island. It's not like they've decided yet. Well, we have to look at more possibilities. So, well, the military is getting ready right now. They're doing these exercises in general. Sanchez, who is the president of the state, the Joint Chief, who is currently in the White House Situation Room, well, he announced it, and this has also been leaked According to U.S. officials cited by the Wall Street Journal, Kane says he will actively pursue any ship with an Iranian flag or any ship that tries to provide material to Iran. We also have to remember that China is supposed to send them material unless they've already sent it.
Supposedly not, and even if they did, they haven't.
Going to say, obviously it says this includes ships in the Shadow Fleet that transport Iranian oil. As most of you know, ships in the Shadow Fleet are those illicit or illegal vessels that evade international regulations, sanctions, and requirements. So, well, this mission called Economic Fury, that's what they named the operation with the ships, will be carried out with the help of the United States Indo-Pacific Command. It will also be applied along with the blockade the U.S. Navy has imposed on all Iranian ports, which has already completely shut everything down. This is also being done in the Gulf of Oman. And well, according to the United States Central Command, they, the United States, have prevented 23 ships from leaving Iranian ports.
Hey, well, that's how things are, so there is a possibility of movement. The Strait of Hormuz is at the center of global tension right now. This whole area basically is just like someone said here in the comments on Roblox. Pepe, we're in the era of ridiculousness because they say one thing, do another, then do something else and say something else. I mean, well, it's basically like a maze situation. Let's move on to other matters, but the idea then is to confiscate, to take away the oil, the bank, everything.
To have it all so nothing enters or leaves. If you go through there, 3 flags will also tell you to let me through.
I imagine that if they get out of there, right? If they leave, let's say, from the truth of it. From the ports, even if they're from another country, I imagine they still want them.
Yes, well, I guess no one is.
No one from there, no one from the ports, no one from the ports, right? And on the other hand, none of those who come from Cuba and Iraq either. Today, some people from Iraq returned, right? And you look at the map and you see that they're standing there. I mean, they're not moving, right? They say there are, well, thousands of sailors who are already desperate wanting to leave, but they can't, right? They can't because of all this. I mean, they're basically like hostages. 1,000. Thousands of sailors in this whole area and in this area, but all of them here, and they can go back at some point and that's it. But the ones on this side can't leave. They're stuck there in a little spot, and well, they just have to wait for the whole thing to be over. It's really a tough situation.
Trump is going crazy. He just posted this Frank Sinatra singing My Way. Who knows what he's planning? What is he doing? Everything.
It's a very curious message. Let me see. Send me the post just to see. Just to see.
But don't put it next to because
Frank Sinatra,
lo regañan aquí. Well,
but it also gives another message.
sí.
Donald Trump, hablando de Israel. And he starts showering him with compliments. You know, like Israel and who knows.
There are also handsome men in Israel.
Basically, it's like that everything's great, that is the best, that they get along really well. He knows that right now, especially in his circle. The followers right now aren't happy with Israel because they see Israel as the country that dragged them into a war. MAGA supporters are upset about that issue with Israel. So talking like that right now isn't popular. For him, this could mean that, like you said earlier, he's probably going to ask them for a favor, right? Is it that, or are they just so upset right now? Based on what he said yesterday, he told them this post forbids Israel from firing at Lebanon. Like, you can forbid us?
Yeah, well, in fact, Netanyahu's son immediately came out and said, we're doing this to help our friend, the U.S.
To our buddy?
Buddy, who's a pal because he doesn't drink, but if not...
Really?
Sería más justificable.
Sí, ándale, si tomara, y bueno, es que anda.
Es que anda borracho.
Is that natural?
Ya te lo mandé.
Let's go to the image. Here's this, which is the part about...
Está lo de Israel and something about France.
But I think there's kind of a reference. I mean, we see it, we pause, that's all, and we show the image. Then there's Donald Trump's account, and he posts Frank Sinatra. And what songs does he mention?
The one called My Way.
The one called My Way? I mean, like my way, not literally my way, more like I do whatever I want.
Basically whatever I feel like, but I'm always gonna do it my way. And the other one is the tweet she posted about Israel. I'll tell you what it says. It says, whether you like Israel or not, they have proven to be a great ally, brave, bold, loyal, and intelligent. Unlike others who showed their true colors, Israel fights with strength and knows how to win. Success in the stone throwing. That
I mean, that's crazy because in the end, the message can have
A lot, and it's for everyone else, whether you like it or not.
exactly. That's for Maga. Exactly. That's why he says it. One likes it, maybe not, but well, just picking at it, as they say. Let's move on to other interesting topics. It's not separate, but North Korea does its own thing, right? It's like when they say, hey, nobody's talking about me. So they launched their little rocket, this time a ballistic missile, toward the East Sea. Once again, North Korea is just showing off. Just remember that it faces the East Sea. Remember, that's toward Japan. It's also known as the Sea of Japan or the East Sea, and that's where it was launched last time. A few weeks ago, 2 or 3 missiles were launched in this direction, toward this area, reportedly with new technology, and now they're launching this one. It's already known what kind of missile it is.
Yes, this is the one to start with. This would be the 4th test so far this month, in this month alone. These were several ballistic missiles, according to the Office of the Prime Minister of Japan, which issued an alert on social media to inform about this launch carried out by the North Korean regime. And in the official statement, the Japanese government explains how the protocol was activated, focusing on gathering and analyzing all available information with the goal of providing the public with timely and appropriate updates. And well, in addition, security procedures were carried out, obviously with aircraft, vessels, and any assets that were in the area. And measures were also put in place to adopt all possible precautionary steps, including any potential contingency.
Potential contingency? Well,
so would this be on Sunday for North Korea? Yes, at 6:10 a.m.
6:10 a.m. Yes. Well, let's move on to another matter. Let's go to another topic because it seems like there's a reaction here about this issue. Let's go with that. Hey, I was checking a report here. Let's see, a twist here. I'm telling you, there are always twists. The new threat from Iran and the United States, and I don't know what else. But anyway, the Revolutionary Guard says that not only is every ship a target, but they also warned that they did receive a new proposal from the United States, or that they received a new proposal. They're not saying they're going to give in. That's what they say themselves. The Iranian regime says that it is reviewing new proposals from the United States, which we don't know what they are, but they insist at the same time it doesn't mean they are going to give in. The Iranian regime reported that they will be reviewing some new documents in which they warn that their negotiators will not make concessions in the talks. The announcement was made by the Supreme National Security Council, and, well, they say maybe that was part of the meeting right now at the White House. I mean, maybe they've already given them a response. Because obviously all of this has a delay.
Okay.
No. What I'm talking about happened before the White House meeting, so what does that mean? They told him no, then suggested meeting to decide what to do? Or they sent them a counteroffer, and let's meet to look at the counteroffer. Let's wait and see if Trump says anything in the next few hours and start putting the pieces together. Well, yes, look, I sent another proposal, which is the one we're talking about, and in that proposal, well, they're going to give in on this, but not on that, and maybe that will calm things down. It's good, another small twist, but an important one? No.
Exactly. There still isn't an official response from Iran, but in the statement, the delegation says they won't give up their options or accept conditions that could be interpreted as a withdrawal or weakness. In other words, they are making it very clear that they won't accept anything that could imply they lost. They won't continue. And if they confirm that they will defend national interests, this obviously means not losing ground on the nuclear issue. In other words, if you read it, it also means not losing the Strait of Hormuz. No, it's already in the constitution or parliament and the law is in place, of course.
That's the situation on this topic.
We're in the same place?
Yes.
Well, we're the same, just worse.
That's right. Switching topics, let's discuss something interesting. We'll be right back. Anything else on Iran? No.
Also, remember this, I haven't mentioned this yet, right? That today they launched, when the strait is closed, at first they were talking to the people approaching in the ships and telling them they had to leave, right? Yes, because the strait was closed. But a few hours ago, the Revolutionary Guard said, let's say, They raised the alert and said that now any ship approaching the Strait of Hormuz will be considered a target. So they're not even going to warn you over the radio anymore. Instead, you are a target. It's a military target, and that's it.
That's how it sounded, obviously already dubbed into Spanish today. We already played it, but in case someone missed it, let's play a few seconds. It lasts 30 seconds. Let's listen to this short audio dubbed into Spanish of how the Iranians talk to, well, the ships that want to pass through there over the radio. Listen to the following.
In the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, the Iranian Zeppa Navy is speaking on Channel 16. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed. We will open it by order of our leader, Imam Khomeini, not because of the tweets of some idiot. If you want to pass through the strait, you must ask the Iranian Zeppa Navy for permission. All vessels connected to our enemies will be attacked if they try to cross the Strait of Hormuz.
Over and out.
It's just that the idiot could be a trap.
I said it. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. No, actually, he did it.
Maybe, since it doesn't specify who.
It doesn't say who?
But they always mock how Trump lives in a world of tweets.
Yes, it could be. There's Abbas Sargachi's point. They also talked about openness, and then there's the Trump issue. So it could apply to both. About that. Well, also interesting. Now let's move on to other matters as well. Anything else about Hormuz? Anything else about this whole area? Well, let's move on to other important matters as well. There's the case of this lady. She's a Mexican lady. Her name is Marta Elena Guerra. Marta Elena Guerra, 89 years old, who at 89 gets her doctorate at UNAM and becomes the first woman to achieve this kind of degree at her age. She wanted to accomplish a goal she had started decades ago. She started her degree when she was around 40 or 42 years old. At 42 years old, she started her degree, and from there, I imagine she got her master's and then went on to her doctorate.
Or university at 42 years old, the honorary mention at 46. She worked as a teacher for 40 years and then got her doctorate at 89 years old. I mean, it's really crazy to think that someone who starts their degree at 40 can still have 40 years of teaching. Exactly. And on top of that, get a doctorate afterwards.
That's why I sometimes find it really funny. Sometimes you hear people in their 30s, people in their 40s, friends who are already like, I've already lived my life, you know? I'm already there, we're already going downhill, right? And now it's like, goodbye, cruel world, right? Basically, and it goes up. I mean, that's where I really notice that kind of people. I mean, it's like, well, goodbye, right? Basically, it's about being frail, let's say. Or others who might have ailments too, but they say, to keep moving forward, to keep evolving, to keep developing yourself, right? I mean, this is really a decision for each person, and that's respectable. Everyone can say what they want, but I think most people decide to go the other way, like the okay, you're over 30 already side. I mean, when you say no, well, the knee, I don't know. They just start coming up with things like that. And this wait to Andres Perdito. I mean, right? I mean, if you're not in your 20s anymore, which I totally get, but I'll hang up for a while now. This, well, cases like those of Marta Elena, sorry. I mean, those are cases that I feel are interesting for that reason, because they also inspire the idea that there's no age to set a limit, right?
Exactly. She says that what was most difficult for her, she thinks, was the computer. Yes, it was hard for me because I'm not very skilled with computers, but everyone supports me.
Excellent. And yesterday I mentioned, because there are also ladies in their 90s who...
They're gamers?
They're really sharp with computers. There are all kinds of people. It also depends on what they like. But we already talked about a 91-year-old lady who was super into hers. So what is it now? I don't go on Twitch, but my son was telling me that right now on Twitch there's a boom of a lot of older people. He says they're playing on Twitch. Grandmas and grandpas who are gamers, but professional gamers.
Will they stream?
I mean, one thing is to play, but it's very different to play and chat and stream and react. And in the end, you're creating entertainment based on your gameplay, and you need to have a certain skill, a certain agility to be able to do it. So it's very interesting. Honestly, all of this is really interesting.
By the way, this lady, Marta Elena Guerra, doesn't plan to stop here. She has plans to study herbalism, she says, to see if she can help others. Excellent.
Very good. Well, there you have it. A very nice piece of news. And now let's move on to other important matters. And the strange news of the day, what we're seeing here, which might look like trash, is actually healthy. No, I mean, what we're seeing here is a sofa. According to reports, a designer, a rapper.
It's ASAP Rocky.
He's not called ASAP Rocky, the husband of. Well, he's not as famous as his wife Rihanna, right? That's why they say Rihanna's husband? He created a sofa that looks like it's made of trash, or maybe it is made of trash.
No. This one is, that's just the appearance, right? That it's made of trash. Okay, the furniture brand is called Homemade. It was founded by him. I mean, he has his own brand.
It doesn't smell bad.
No. But the trash bag couch, which is designed to look like trash bags, according to what they say, the piece is a work of art. It was developed in collaboration with Crosby Studios, led by a Russian architect and designer, Harry Nuribier. And well, the sofa has 2 cushions that resemble trash bags filled with various types of waste, and the price. Thankfully, it hasn't been reported yet because I can't imagine having that mess in the house.
No, just imagine.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe as a work of art.
Yeah. In a museum, you say, hey.
Maybe.
How crazy. I mean, and if they let you sit in a museum, that would be funny, right? Of course. Sure, it would be funny, but otherwise I can't imagine. I mean, he participated. An architect, designer, a musician.
A lot of people.
Just 3 kicks. You say, well, I mean, it's like, wow. Because, I mean, these ideas, it's not the first time I've seen this. I mean, right? No. I mean, they use trash as a kind of aesthetic concept. No, I mean, it's not the first time I've seen it.
I just don't see any criticism here. If you're doing something like this, shouldn't there be some critique of consumerism or something? No. I mean, you see that they're selling it for a really high price for sure.
It's generating more waste. Well, that's how it is, the curious news of the day. By the way, there's also another story, but not a dark one. It's actually a bit shocking. Obviously, this kind of thing happens in Mexico, right? It's Rio Pánuco. Well, they keep showing what they've been showing, so on social media you can see this. The problem is that thousands of dead fish have appeared. Well, this should be investigated, right? What's going on there? Yes, we've seen these problems in different parts of the world, where suddenly a lot of fish like this appear, right? Many times it's because there are too many fish and they run out of oxygen, so they start dying. But, well, they would have to analyze what's happening, what's causing that problem there. We'll see if there's any reaction in that regard. Another topic that draws attention is this. What happened here?
Here we see the king of Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the king of Sweden who went to Lviv. Remember that it's right next to Poland in Ukraine. Yes, in Ukraine, but they are neighbors of Poland. And, well, the mayor of the place, whose name is Andres Adobe, was super nervous about receiving the king. Instead of saying Your Majesty, he kept calling him Your Emergency.
Out of habit, Your Eminence, Your Emergency.
And besides, out of habit, he's always hiding whenever the attacks come.
Well, there's also this image of... Well, these Shaolin monks have extraordinary abilities, right? To do certain exercises. Check this out. It doesn't stop at just hanging there. Look. He does a kind of push-up position, but without using his feet. Hanging with 2 fingers on one side, 2 fingers on the other, and also balancing himself like this. No, that's amazing. Just imagine, those fingers must be like stone, right? It's really impressive, isn't it? So it's incredible, and I don't know how to train those. How do you even start? Tus dedos a ese nivel de fuerza, ¿no? También eso es tremendo. Vámonos pues a otros asuntos importantes. It's an interesting topic. While the world is looking for solutions like electric cars, hybrids, this and that, there's been a development that I find very interesting because they claim that with diesel fuel, but using water, they make diesel about 60% more eco-friendly, so to speak. I mean, it's a very interesting development because maybe just imagine if they found out that it's probably a solution they already had. But they claim that there is an amazing technology, a technology that promises to reduce diesel engine emissions by 60% without changing the engine. Just imagine, they say the new scientific breakthrough would be shaking up the energy debate. Adding water to diesel could drastically reduce polluting emissions. The technology is called white water or Indiseal. It's an emulsion and consists of mixing micro droplets of water into the fuel in a stable way, not like a homemade mix. In other words, it's not like that. No, don't just pour it in like that. I mean, that's a process. Well, the system manages to reduce nitrogen oxides by nearly 70% and 68% of pollutant particles are reduced. Figures that have obviously made headlines all over the world. Just imagine if that could be done, reducing pollution on a global level. Impressively, besides diesel, which in theory is the most polluting, yes, this process allows for combustion. It's more efficient and reduces the temperature spikes that are responsible for much of the polluting gases. These studies also show improved engine thermal efficiency, meaning the engine performs better. That's impressive.
Exactly, but it obviously has its disadvantages. CO and CO2 emissions can vary depending on the mixture, the engine, and the operating conditions. Also, in real-world tests, like with urban trucks, for example, the results aren't always very consistent. They can even increase emissions in some scenarios.
So it depends on how they use it?
It depends on how they use it on the engine, on several factors, and on how well the engine is maintained. So, well, it's not a magic solution, obviously, but rather a technology, an opening that is starting to show that it needs adjustments, obviously, and control.
It's already too late, isn't it?
Why?
I mean, well, like I said, everything's already done. Everything is switching to electric.
No, but for example, there are some really great hybrid cars right now.
Well, yes.
So, well, there are options. It's still an option. And another challenge is also the stability of the fuel. The mixture needs something called surfactants that keep it homogeneous, but it only lasts 60 days. Okay, so...
I mean, you pretty much have to use it, period.
Basically, it goes bad. I mean, if 60 days go by, it goes bad. That's it.
Yeah, well, there are still some things to fix there. It's called WIDE. I mean, WIDE, the project, in case you want to look it up. Maybe you'll find some interesting information, see what you think. And let's move on to another topic. That's why it's such a curious discovery. They discovered the first egg from an ancestor of mammals. It's this egg. How? I mean... So, it's a mammal egg. Exactly. That's what's curious about it. They say it's like the ancestor. It's almost a mammal, but it's not a mammal. So, well, this would be the egg of a baby Lystrosaurus. It's the first, obviously not a mammal, but it's kind of like the...
Closest relative?
The closest relative, right? And, well, it would provide direct evidence that the ancestors laid eggs, the ancestors of mammals, and it tells the story of the survival of these animals. The new fossil dates back 250 million years and contains the embryo of a Lystrosaurus. It's a subject that is obviously still under investigation. This was published, by the way, in the scientific journal PLOS ONE. In case anyone's interested. If he's interested in analyzing it a little more in depth, right? Let's move on then to other important matters as well. Actually, let's go to the comments, right? Let's go to the comments. How have you been? How's it going? Hey, it's movie Saturday, isn't it? And the truth is that there hasn't been a chance to go to the movies, so no, we haven't seen anything in theaters, but we've been watching on streaming platforms. We did watch one. Well, we still have one episode left, but we watched a series that we had already mentioned to you. It's called Hijack with Chris Idris Elba. It's going really well, very interesting. What else do we watch? More about our week.
I think we watched,
well...
You just finished watching, but have one episode left?
Invincible and...
The newest one?
Yes, we watched something.
And Art. Well, let's continue like that.
We have followed Love, that's true.
But I don't recall us watching a movie.
We didn't watch one, just a couple of episodes of an anime that's about, what are they called? Those who turn lead into gold and stuff like that.
Alchemists?
Something about alchemists. We've watched 2 episodes.
Of?
Metal, Alchemist, and we watched 2 episodes of that anime. So far, we've only watched its episodes. There are several others you mentioned last time that are still pending, but it's just that there are so many things to watch. So sometimes it's hard to watch everything, but it says this threat from a super El Nino event would seriously affect global agriculture and increase the risk of forest fires and catastrophic floods. Yeah, that topic is moving really fast. And I think we're already experiencing the change here in Monterrey, because right now, what's happening is the opposite. Right now, at this very drastic moment, I mean, right now it's raining, and that's not common at all for this time of year. We're supposed to be in just a little while. Well, I'm wearing a jacket and it's April. I mean, we're going to be at 12 degrees today. We're not going to be at 12 degrees today. It's cool. I'm not saying just a shirt like this. The thing is, I was wearing a short sleeve shirt and I got cold, so I put on a long sleeved shirt. No, I mean, that's enough. But here at home, but at night, starting today, it's supposed to be 12 degrees Celsius. So yeah, it's pretty intense, says Francisco San Francisco. That's how Honda and Sony have canceled the development of their Afila electric cars, but that was on March 28th. Thank you, Francisco. I didn't know about the cancellation of these cars. Do you know why? I mean, did they give any explanation or what's going on? Hey, many greetings also to the channel members community. Thank you very much for your support. Thanks, a big shout out.
Greetings to Meta. They say those are horrible. They're art furniture. I know. Cerdo, San Blanca, Barcelo.
Friend?
How are you, Andro and Dieguito J? It even dried up right away in Querétaro.
It was so hot. No, really.
In Querétaro?
So we're not the new Cuernavaca. Now, I mean...
It's like, greetings, Cristo, and you don't create like Toluca, I don't know.
No, Toluca.
Greetings to Blanca. She says wouldn't take the couch even if it were free.
No, that's not true. Are you really going to put it in your living room?
I'll put it in my son's room. If they give it away, your daughter's short one can distract them. Now, I think the rest is a lot. Martin Gutierrez Pepe says, after Wednesday, oil prices, stock values, and the dollar will change again.
Well, so do you think they're going to fall or do you think they're going to rise? That they're going to rise. Because look.
I mean, if they don't reach an agreement.
If they don't reach an agreement, let's see. It's like it closed. It closed like this. Exaggerated, it closed like this. The market was way up. The S&P 500.
They did super well.
They did really well. Look, I mean, let's see. Like, what will be the last one? Let's look at the chart as far as it lets me see to check out the spike it's showing right now. I'm going to circle to see where they are. That's the rise. That's the rise. That's the rise. Look, it's the historical data. Let's put a little drawing here. There, that's good. Look at where the 500 largest companies in the United States are right now. Here, this. Well, and here I'm going to 2023. Sorry, what I'm doing here today is just scribbling. Let's see, sorry. Control. There it is. Yes, let's do this exercise like this. Oh. Hola. Hey, subscribe. I'm going to set it like this. Zoom in. I'm going to put it like this. Subscribe, guys. Exactly. I mean, this is basically what we're seeing in 2023. Look at how much the S&P 500 has grown, with its dips, obviously with some huge drops, but well, it just keeps going and keeps rising. The truth is, well, yes, this topic is very interesting. By the way, many thanks to Ruben Williams for that. I deserved it, actually. Thank you very much for those 10 memberships, and congratulations to those who have received a free membership for a month. Thank you well to Ruben. Many thanks also to Francisco and to everyone who has already liked. Monica Sepulveda, how have you been? Also a huge shout out. That's how things are today. At some point, it's your turn. It's not your turn to recommend because I think we didn't see anything new.
Until next time, Yesenia Rodriguez, hello, good evening to everyone. Greetings from Panama. Greetings, Yesenia. Greetings to Miguel Alejandro. The diesel and water mixture in droplet form is interesting. She says, yes.
Ruben
Williams. There's also always someone who sees the article but only looks at the title and is already making comments. It's straight to the car. Greetings, Anna Maria, who says we went to the movies to see the Mario Brothers movie just recently. And well, for me, I thought it was boring. I even fell asleep, but my daughters liked it, says Anna Maria. Anna Maria is not alone. We haven't gone to see them, but we went to see the first one in 3D on a huge screen and I still fell asleep. I got lost. There were just too many colors and movement. I'm going to sleep now.
Yeah, but yeah, this one is here. I like the Minecraft one better.
The Minecraft one is really good. I mean, I didn't fall asleep at all. It's really nice, she says. MT. The speech in Spain about contributing a percentage of the budget to plant trees, that's what Mexico said, that it doesn't have money and keeps putting the country more and more in debt, says MT. Greetings to MT.
How have you been? Very good, says Miguel. How is Miguel? Alejandro, Mr. Pioneer 400 says greetings, fire eaters at the traffic lights. Do they use very diluted diesel? Really? I didn't know how. How do they do it?
He says there aren't any here now. There used to be many, and I remember as a girl from that PP, that's where we found them, right by the arch. There was always a scandal.
The lady, one brings fire, but yes, she brings some things there, but the others are close by. And the lady, well, she brings marks.
Doors?
Burn. Yes, because there was probably an accident, something like that.
Yes, greetings. Canela says, hello, Daddy, from Argentina. Greetings to Norte Sur. Norte Sur says Trump isn't interested in opening the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of his statements meant to distract. That's Norte Sur.
So, is it complicated? What I've been seeing lately, I mean, these days, is basically what's going to continue for a while. If we see that there's a negotiation, they're just going to keep dragging it out, saying yes, saying no, until something happens. We shouldn't forget how this negotiation happened with the Gaza issue. You know, they said one thing, but nothing was really happening, and it was just yes, no, back and forth. But in the end, that idea of dragging things out and kind of putting pressure on people worked for him, and it worked in that sense. But for example, the issue with Ukraine hasn't worked for him.
But also like in Gaza, let's say.
In quotes.
Because Hamas still hasn't been disarmed. It's still armed. And if time keeps passing, it will keep going and growing.
It's like Venezuela. Everything feels incomplete.
Everything is half done.
See, does anyone in their right mind think that right now, as things stand right now, the regime is going to change because of this war? At least so far, no, you don't see that. And in fact, it seems like they're even stronger and the issue is moving forward. And you also ask yourself, isn't it possible that this strategy is going to make them stronger or strengthen them even more? The Iranians, in the sense that, well, if they've already endured this conflict, they're even going to feel emboldened, like, oh, look, the strategy worked, so let's keep adjusting and improving these points. But, well, the strategy works in the sense that they can withstand an attack, even a direct one, from a major power, right? Or from two powers, because in the end, it's Israel and the United States, which are military powers, and being able to withstand that is no small feat for a country that, by the way, is facing a water crisis, an economic crisis, basically a crisis of every kind. So, yes, unfortunately, let's see if other groups or similar countries don't come out wanting to do the same. Well, to go head to head and start getting, let's say, intense, let's say in all this, well, the Ayatollah's quest to, well, as they say, destroy the West, right? They've said it. Well, this seems, I feel like pushing them to think that everything they said, this whole narrative, now many will see it as justified because they'll say, look, it's true, they came and bombed us. Look, they did this to us. They did that to us. It justifies that whole narrative in the minds of many people who live there.
Exactly, says Ana Maria. Greetings to Patricio, who is watching your show here with me from the south of Veracruz. Greetings, Ana Maria.
Hi, Ana Maria. Hope you're well.
And greetings to Patricio too.
A big shout out to Patricio too. How have you been? Monica Sepulveda, Felix Terrazas, Ana Maria, for the whole community.
Thank you very much. Greetings to Eugenio Feliciano. How are you? Greetings all the way to Puerto Rico. Greetings. Greetings to Ruben says, sorry, that's not for us. Raul Sachs, Japan thought the kamikazes would work for them, but it didn't turn out that way.
Yes, well, good point there. Now, there are different kind of kamikaze, right? The unmanned and very cheap ones. Yeah, right. What a tremendous decision, huh? To just go for it like that. Raul says, greetings, Raul Sachs.
Felix Terrazas, they're like La Chimoltrufia. Just like they say one thing, they say another. Exactly. There are things where I'm right and things where I'm not. I think the hostilities are going to continue. Yes, for example, the other day I was saying that logic follows, right? Trump was saying, for example, at the beginning, he questioned the journalist, how long will the war last? No, it's already over. Just an incursion that's ending. But Pete Heshet says that there are still weeks to go. Both things could be true. No, it can't be both. I mean, either it's going to end now or it's going to last weeks or months. I mean, because Heshet said it was at the beginning, the first week, right? That at first it was going to get more intense, but the other day he was saying that it was about to end. So, and he's like that all the time. If you pay attention, he's constantly contradicting himself. Right there, you don't even have to wait a few minutes. Right there, he contradicts himself right there. Shout out to Dorian.
Greetings, Dorian.
How have you been? He is active, he says, from the show.
No, he said to keep the chat active. Yesterday it stayed on, remember? The chat was active for about 2 hours, right? The conversation must have been good. Hi, Dorian. How have you been? Beto Barba, a big greeting to you as well. He says, the platypus hatches and it's a mammal. Yes, that's true. Thing.
Very strange platypus.
That's a whole thing.
Yeah, besides it has a little bit of venom and it's like fur. It's not really fur. It looks more like spines. but you squeeze it and a little bit of venom comes out. That's really weird too. How crazy. So it's kind of a mix of things.
Greetings, how are you, Canela? Good to see you.
Greetings to Mariano Cejas, who says, unfortunately, NATO could have.
Greetings, Mariano, how have you been?
Greetings. Greetings also to Miguel Alejandro, also to Carlos Martinez, to Gabriel Duran Castro. How are you?
Hello there.
Raul Sachs is also here, as well as Tapatia and Christy Kranz.
Greetings.
Greetings also to Aparicio Gonzalez, who says Maria Corina Machado is in Spain. Yes. By chance coinciding with other world leaders, or is she carrying out the mandate given to her by Trump? Greetings from Uruguay. Well, she's back around again.
Who knows? Here is the...
A huge crowd gathered around her.
There were a lot of people there in downtown Madrid. Apparently that's where the meeting was. And well, obviously all of this draws a lot of attention. They're there with the PP people, right? Which is like a center-right party, as I understand it, something like that. But well, that's how things are, right? In the end, they're politicians and they're going to be on one side or the other, making alliances and so on. That's also part of what's happening right now. And well, there's also the Mexican president, right?
President Lula, Petro, who else was there? Actually, Petro, Lula, and Claudio took a picture together. I think I saw someone else, but I don't remember who it was. Yeah. But well, yeah.
Yeah, the pictures are going around. Well, that's also part of what happened today. It says, cheers, Raul, how have you been? Francisco Arce says there are very few likes. Yeah, things are moving very slowly. Give us a hand with that, guys.
Greetings to Guillermo Vega, who says, Pepe, I recommend the game I'm playing. It's called Pragmata. It's really good. Is it a video game? Yes.
Pragmata?
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 Or is it a board game?
No, board game.
Martin says $105 million in emergency aid for Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. The environmental disaster and extreme drought have left more than 7 million people starving, says Martin. Greetings, Martin.
Greetings, Martin. Well, yes, very, very tough. Obviously, the issue, the part that often isn't seen, right? In the news right now, especially with so much conflict and all that, unfortunately, environmental issues and topics like these end up being somewhat sidelined in the media. Here we try, to bring up some of the most relevant topics about that, but it looks good. It looks good. Pragmata is said to be a sci-fi action-adventure game from Capcom. It says, join Hawk, survivor of a tragic expedition, and Diana, a young android, as they move through a lunar station controlled by a rogue AI to return to Earth. Oh, the balance. That's interesting.
To greet the missing person, he shows up. See? How are you?
Ben, how have you been, Ben?
You're just like they asked about you.
2025, right? 2025. I don't think I came for 2026. Greetings, Ben. It's good that you're here. Hope you're well.
Miguel Alejandro says Israel put them in jail and now I can't find the life jacket to jump into the water and get out of there fast. He says greetings.
Greetings, awesome. And greetings to those who've been MIA and to those who suddenly don't log on or whatever, or they connect and can't speak for some reason as well.
Who watch us later, like Tibal, like Sita.
Sita, greetings to Sita, to Tibal, obviously. Well, to the whole community that, well, sometimes we don't see them here in the chat, but we know they're out there. Walter Rosario too, big greetings, Walter.
It says, I like a game that entertains me the most. It's one called Sokoban, and it's for thinking.
Let's see, put it on.
Put it on. I think it's a thinking game, so it's right up my alley. Novak Chrono says, have you seen that all the big companies are joining forces to create a mega AI capable of competing with myths? They're afraid of being hacked.
Yes. They're going to develop it together to make it secure. Sokoban, wait.
With S, with K, yes, Sokoban, all together like a donkey's birthday.
That's good, like a donkey's birthday.
Of handsome, because you're going to offend him because you don't say it.
Yes, well, go.
Go. Like that. I really like them.
Yes. He's really going to like Street, of course.
Yes, greetings from me too.
I like some of them.
But there you go, already married with a child on the way. Oh, how fast.
Oh, what an old man.
You guys do everything in no time. Congratulations, many congratulations, such happiness. Having a little boy or a little girl is always a wonderful experience.
This one is this one, isn't it? Not this one.
Sokoman. Oh, I know which ones those are. Yes.
Yeah, like a puzzle, right?
Yeah, you have to carry this and that, and you only have so many moves. Yeah, you have to start a load.
That's what the one I just got into in Ultra Kill was like. What's it called again? I was just playing Ultra Kill. Has anyone tried it? It seemed really chaotic to me when I saw it being played, and honestly, it's not. I mean, yeah, it's good. It's not for everyone, obviously, because it's basically a zombie slaughterfest with all kinds of monsters and stuff. But it's more entertaining than it looks, right? This little game. And well, what else? What else? What does Martin say? What does he say? At the end of the world, and you could see it. You could see the pandemic, wars, extreme weather. Also, what a coincidence. There are more and more red flags, says Martin. How has Martin been? Walter, thank you very much. Walter, greetings. How are you doing?
Greetings to Walter Osorio as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Greetings as well. We'll see her here.
Thank you. Omar says, but what happened in Iran was like a coup d'etat, only with help from the United States. They ousted the leaders, creating a power vacuum that the most radical members filled. Salud, how have you been?
Hi.
There.
Shout out to Carlos Martinez and Rulo too, and to Aparicio Gonzalez. How are you, Aparicio?
How are you?
Greetings. Also, 7 pounds, how are you? It says Putin, Trump, and Xi start by dividing up each hemisphere. Greetings, 7.
Greetings, 7. By the way, is the meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping going to happen in May or not? That's the question I'll leave you with. Because, well, I don't know. I see Trump as being very optimistic that the meeting will happen. Maybe he already talked to him, right? But it feels like he's waiting for Xi Jinping's reaction. So far, I haven't seen Xi Jinping say anything about it. He says we're going to meet, and I don't know. It kind of seems like it is happening, right?
No, Nova says, did you see the real scandal where his son lived in the Mexican embassy in the United Kingdom and the man gets upset because they question him? What nerve, says Nova.
Greetings. How have you been? Hi there?
Yes, we saw it. Greetings. And you? I've already seen that.
There are several rumors going around.
Well, I'm going to talk about the celebrity gossip right now too, and we'll see. If not, it's for us. Greetings to everyone.
Greetings.
Hi there. Greetings, Adrian Gilbert. How are you, Adrian?
Adrian Gilbert, how have you been?
Greetings to Spain. Hi, how are you, Nova's dad?
Hello, hello.
And greetings to Adagio Capacitaciones as well.
Adagio, how are you? Did Nova's dad leave a comment today or not?
I don't see Papa in the phrase.
Well, no.
Well, no, if I see it, I'll tell you.
I support Dad. He's talking about it there. He says, collapse of the pollinators, Dad says. If it disappears, the food production system would collapse, says Marcelo Martin, as a state.
Greetings to Diablo0852. How are you?
Hello, greetings.
And Antonio Vasquez says that attack by the United States against Iran was carried out with a bad strategy, and what it caused was the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Greetings from Guadalajara.
Greetings, Antonio. Hello. Hope you and your family are well. Best regards. Who else is around there?
Adrian Gilbert says, I think you're talking about the legalization of immigrants in Spain, right?
Oh, yes, I saw it.
Requirement? 5 months in Spain. It doesn't matter if you have a passport or not, if you're registered or living on the street. Papers for everyone.
So 5 months? 5 months or how long?
5 months. Yes, look.
That's huge. Yes?
Yes, it's very open.
The topic is very open. And what do people say? I mean, honestly speaking, right? I know some people agree, right? But is there a majority in agreement on that or not? I mean, do they see it as a problem? What kind of reactions are there? I'm asking the community in Spain watching us for their thoughts. And, well, there's a reaction, but let's see what comes out tomorrow from Tim Burchett. There could be a publication, this congressman who's speaking. I mean, well, he's bringing up this idea that these Pentagon files should be disclosed. Today, this Ana Maria appeared, what's her name? Ana Paulina Luna. And Ana Paulina Luna published a message justifying a bit why the people at the Pentagon had taken so long. But anyway, aside from that, she didn't say anything very important. What she says interests me more, but we'll discuss it tomorrow since it's connected to the missing scientists. So it's interesting, but we're already at the end of the stream. It's better to talk about it tomorrow, and that way we can also do a deeper analysis of the topic. We missed it. It's nearly the end of the stream. He says, well, thanks for the recommendation, by the way, video games. Yes, that too.
Greetings to Lords, greetings to you and everyone. What can we do if we're in the hands of people who think they're great and that someone has all the power to destroy? Thank you, Astrid and Pepe. Regards.
Greetings, Lords. How have you been? Thank you very much for your comment.
Greetings also to Marilena Onofre. How are you, Marilena?
Very good, Marilena.
Greetings. Greetings also to Martin. Pepe says, Do you think a total collapse of financial and communication systems could happen due to cyber attacks? What do you think?
Well, look, I find it hard to believe there would be a complete collapse, but there could be partial collapses in certain areas, right? Look, what really surprised me was this report from Mitos, right? Because what was discovered with Mitos is that the global system of all financial systems, right? They are very fragile, extremely fragile. So that means that all those things they said about how secure it is, well, maybe it's not as secure as they thought. So now, more than ever, we have to be very careful. Wherever you click, where you insert your card, I mean, those kinds of things, always, if you're going to use a card, make sure you always do it safely, okay? Banks give you an option, or at least some of them give you the option to create a temporary digital card. With that, you say, I'm going to spend, let's say, I'm going to spend $100. So I set it, I activate those $100, I spend them right then, and it goes back to zero. And also the code, the security number changes. It changes within minutes. So that reduces the probability of hacking, but it's, no, yes, it really surprised me, honestly. That it's so vulnerable. Complex server systems from big companies and all that. Imagine, if that's the case, how are the smaller companies doing? Well, a bunch of servers, but I don't know how many thousands of servers without even a password. Yeah, I don't know. They could get in just like that. Honestly, that whole thing is really, really crazy, right? But well, he says how. Mauro, how are you? Great, Christy, greetings.
They're already saying it's twins. Let's not scare him. Greetings, and as if that weren't enough work already, just imagine two. Greetings.
Let's go.
Greetings, guys. Remember that we are on WhatsApp and Telegram, and we are also on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
Thanks and greetings to everyone in the community. Well, let's keep talking. If you're watching the replay, also leave us a movie or series recommendation, or even a video game, of course. Thank you very much for that. That's why I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 greetings, Francisco.
El Pasgur?
Pasgur. El Pasgur, yes. Well, thank you very much. Have a great day. Have an excellent weekend. Enjoy it. And, well, tomorrow we'll be here early informing you about what's happening in the world, right? Anything else?
No, we don't have anything else.
Let's go then. See you later. We interrupt your regular programming.
Thank you for tuning in to The Truth.
This is Pepe Live.
The truth is intense, harsh, the unusual is real, and we analyze it here. Global focus, don't miss out. Tune into the channel Pepe Live, controlling the signal. Pepe Live, telling it like it is. Raw journalism, here it's respected. Turn on alerts, don't lose track. Until next time. Yes, sir. We're taking attendance. Subscribe. Pepe Live in the house. Pa pa pa.